Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'll take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Make sure you put your name and your outlet in the chat while you are asking the question so I know exactly who you are. It is Thursday, November 6th, and today marks day 762 since our hostages were brutally kidnapped by barbaric people from the Gaza Strip. It has been 24 days since our hostages first started coming home under the ceasefire plan, living and deceased. Late last night, our security forces were notified that the remains of one of our deceased hostages would finally be returning home. The Red Cross transported the remains to our brave soldiers in the Gaza Strip, where a ceremony took place to honor this life that was taken from us too soon. After undergoing the identification process overnight, it was confirmed the remains belonged to a foreign national, Joshua Mell from Tanzania. Joshua, of blessed memory, was an agricultural student on Kibbutz Nachaloz. After studying agronomy in his university there, he left his home country for the first time in his life to expand his knowledge from Israel's expertise in agrotech. He came to Israel for hands-on farming experience with plans of bringing his skills back to his home country. Joshua was only in Israel for 19 days when Hamas invaded southern Israel and massacred our people and communities. On the morning of October 7th, Joshua was working at the kibbutz dairy farm when he was murdered and kidnapped that horrific day. A terrifying video was released from that day as well, showing Joshua alive as terrorists in plain clothes surrounded him on all sides, ripping his clothing as blood streamed down from his face from the side of his head. The video later cuts to Joshua on the ground, lifeless, as these disgusting terrorists step on his body and continue to shoot him from close range. Joshua wasn't Israeli, he didn't speak the language, and was thrusted into a terrifying, life-ending situation. Hamas doesn't discriminate and has no bounds of cruelty. They kill all of those who affiliate themselves with the Jewish state. Joshua leaves behind his parents and 4 siblings in his home country. May his memory forever be a blessing. We are dealing with monsters, savagery, and barbarism that will be remembered by our people for generations to come, and we will never let it happen again. Hamas, its supporters and collaborators, and all of those that invaded our country on October 7th, murdered, raped, sexually assaulted, kidnapped, massacred our people. We will never forget, and we will reach every single terrorist who took part in October 7th and any terrorist operating inside of the Gaza Strip. The IDF announced this week the Air Force eliminated the terrorist that held 6 of our Israeli hostages while they were in captivity. I also want to draw to your attention the testimony of one of our living hostages, Rom Braslavsky, who was recently released. He too will never forget the unbelievable hell he went through on a daily basis during his 2-year captivity in the black hole of Gaza. In an interview in Israeli media, Rom explained how he was sexually assaulted and tortured while being held by Palestinian Islamic Jihad, describing being stripped naked, tied up, and starved, and how the sexual violence he endured was to humiliate him and to crush his dignity. Quote, "It's something even the Nazis didn't do. During Hitler's time, they wouldn't have done things like this. You just pray for it to stop." This is exactly what Rome said in this interview. Rome's courageous testimony cannot fall on deaf ears and be watered down in the media. This is living proof of the true nature of Gaza's terror groups, and it's the lens journalists must wear when reporting and taking the words of these terror groups' leaders who control their own people in the Gaza Strip using fear. Israel will not rest until every single one of our hostages, all 6 of them, are returned home from captivity. We will not accept violations by Hamas, and we will respond with force to any violation or threat to the safety of our soldiers and our citizens. Once again, yesterday, in 2 separate incidents in Gaza, the Air Force eliminated terrorists who crossed over the yellow line in the north of Gaza and posed an immediate threat to our soldiers, a violation by the terror group. Next, on Singapore, I can confirm to you today that Prime Minister Netanyahu met today Singapore's Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan here in Jerusalem, where the two discussed opportunities in the region and the success of the 20-point plan the Prime Minister brought to fruition with the leadership from President Trump. The Foreign Minister reiterated his support for Israel under this plan and stand ready to support Israel. Israel and Singapore have long-standing economic ties and are working together to advance our common goals for prosperity, peace, and security. I'll now take a few questions. Okay, so from Alexander Cornwell from Reuters, Israel has been carrying out a number of strikes in southern Lebanon. Is Israel's position that the ceasefire is still in effect? What is the reason for the recent strikes? Is Israel interested in direct talks with Lebanon's government? And if so, to discuss what issues? So specifically on Lebanon, I'm sure you've seen the notifications that the IDF, of course, have put out, but Israel will continue to defend all of its borders. And we continue also to insist on the full enforcement of the ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel. We will not allow Hezbollah to rearm themselves, to recover, build back up its strength, to threaten the state of Israel. And the continuous terrorist activities by Hezbollah constitute a violation of the understanding between this ceasefire. So like I said, Israel will continue to remove any threat that is posed to our soldiers, to our citizens here, and we will do exactly what we need to do. Of course, you've seen these operations continue over the last few days. Laser Berman from the Times of Israel. What is the Prime Minister's reaction to the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York? Has the Prime Minister reached out to Mamdani? Are there any circumstances in which Israel would allow 200 Hamas terrorists to return safely from Israeli-controlled territory to Hamas-controlled territory inside of the Gaza Strip? In terms of that, I don't have anything to add at this point in time. And yesterday, Laser, if you listened to our briefing, which I hope you did, I spoke about that election result. Of course, we all saw it. But in terms of that, the Prime Minister will continue to work with the leadership in the White House. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have an incredible relationship that got us to this point where we are. At this pivotal point in time in the region, we are under a ceasefire. Israel is continuing to uphold our side of the agreement. This plan was brought forth by Prime Minister Netanyahu and the leadership from President Trump in the region. We remain in close contact with them on a daily basis, and we will continue to see their relationship, this positive relationship both leaders have in the region. So it looks like those are all the questions I have right now. If anyone else has any other questions, you can always reach out to us here at the Prime Minister's office. We will be happy to answer them. Thanks so much for your time today.